everyone, and I am Autobot Sonic the Telltale Gamer, bringing latest and everything Telltale games, Life is Strange, and many other things. So this is a video I've been wanting to make for many years. Well, I mean, not technically the actual main focus of this video, but Dead by Daylight is a game that I've really wanted to cover on this channel for a very long time. I've been a fan of this game ever since it was released back in 2016, and for the past, I want to say for the past 4 years, I've just been absolutely addicted to this game. I played it quite a bit too back when it first came out. I started playing it I think back when Michael Myers came out, and then played it on and off until around chapter 9 or 10, and then I took a break from it. And then when the Stranger Things DLC came out a few years ago, I was playing that because I was hoping doing that would get me into Stranger Things, since at that time Telltale's Stranger Things game got canceled. To this date, I still have yet to see Stranger Things, but I'm definitely going to try to watch it before season 4 comes out, whenever that may be. But yeah, Dead by Daylight is a game that I absolutely love with all my heart. I mean, if you can take a look at my hours I put into the game here compared to every other game I have on Steam, you'll see just how much I love this game. But if there's one thing I've been really excited about for Dead by Daylight, that would be when Dead by Daylight announced earlier this month, or actually last month, that the start of year 6 Dead by Daylight, aka chapter 20, will be focused on Resident Evil. And that's something I was really excited for. I mean, ever since Behavior got the rights to Silent Hill last year, I figured we'd be getting a Resident Evil chapter at some point. And to see now that my favorite horror game franchise is getting mixed with one of my favorite games right now, I'm super excited for that to be revealed tomorrow. And it's really hard to believe that I'm recording this on the 24th right now, so really early in the morning. So we've got about a day, less than a day probably by the time I post this, when we have less than 24 hours probably when this video goes live, when the Behavior will be revealing chapter 20 of Dead by Daylight, which is the Resident Evil chapter. And we know for a fact that it's going to give us one new survivor and one new killer. But considering the fact that there are rumors going around that the chapter may not have a map like several of the other year 5 maps did, there's rumor that going around that we might actually get 2 killers and 2 survivors. Now, to this date, the only chapter in Dead by Daylight to have this irregularity with it was chapter 13, Stranger Things, where we got 2 survivors instead of 1. We got Nancy and Steve along with the Demogorgon as our killer. I feel like this is probably to make up for the fact that the previous chapter, which was Ghostface, only just brought Ghostface. It didn't bring a new map or a new survivor, just brought Ghostface in. It was basically just a glorified paragraph. But I'm really excited for what Dead by Daylight has planned to do with the Resident Evil chapter. And being as I've been a huge fan of the Resident Evil series for about almost 10 years now, I feel like I'd like to give my 10 cents in as to who I believe the survivors and killer for the Resident Evil chapter are going to be. So if you're excited to hear what I think about for the Resident Evil chapter of Dead by Daylight, be sure to like, comment, and of course subscribe. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. So before we start off with my analysis as to who I think the survivors are going to be, I want to give a quick shout out to fellow YouTuber The Lore Guy. You may also know him as Pixel Brush Entertainment. He made a few, actually earlier yesterday, a video basically talking about who he believes will be the survivors for the Resident Evil chapter. And basically, I'd have to agree with him on who I believe the survivors going to be. He believes that the survivors will be any combination of 2 of 4 survivors, either Leonis Kennedy from Resident Evil 2, 4, and 6, Claire Redfield from Resident Evil 2, Revelations 2, and Code Veronica, Chris Redfield from Resident Evil 1, Code Veronica, 5, Revelations 1, 6, 7, and 8, or Jill Valentine from Resident Evil 1, 3, Revelations 1, and 5. Now, honestly, any of those I'm totally okay with. Any combination of those 4 survivors being the survivors for the Resident Evil chapter. I honestly expect them to use 2 of those 4 characters for it. But if I had to give my personal opinion, I would honestly want Chris and Jill to be the survivors. And I'm pretty biased towards that because I was a huge fan of the earlier Resident Evil games. RE5 and Revelations 1 are 2 of my favorite Resident Evil games. Helps too because they were actually my first real Resident Evil games. the first Resident Evil game I ever actually played was Resident Evil 5 in, I believe, 2010. Then I got Mercenaries 3D the year after, because I was just in love with Resident Evil after that. After that, I moved on to Operation Raccoon City. I know everyone gives Operation Raccoon City shit, but I actually really liked that game. I had a bunch of great time with my friends who got that game. I played that, Revelations 1, and Resident Evil 6. Then I kind of just took a backseat from Resident Evil for a while until Revelations 2 came out. Then I lost my shit when Resident Evil 7 came out and played through that. And I never got into the Resident Evil 2 or 3 remakes until just right before Resident Evil 8 came out, because I wanted to take a break from Resident Evil, and I wanted to actually play through the older Resident Evil games before I played the Resident Evil 2 and 3 remakes. So I got Resident Evil 0 and 1 for the Switch, and I played through. I know I'm going on a tangent here, but I just want to, I just want to talk about this. So I tried playing through Resident Evil 0, and that game is just ludicrously hard. So I skipped that. Went to RE1. I played through Chris's story in that to get ready for RE8, and I absolutely loved RE1. Then I played through the RE2 and 3 remakes, and with that, I can totally see why people wanted Leon and Claire to be, because for just reference, I have yet to play Resident Evil 4, and prior to my playthrough of Resident Evil 2 remake, my only experience with Leon and Claire was through Resident Evil 6 and Resident Evil Revelations 2, which aren't bad games, but I just didn't have the same attachment to them as I did to Chris and Jill from Resident Evil 5, Resident Evil 1, and Revelations 1, which I had already played at the time. So I was more biased towards Chris and Jill being the survivors instead of Leon and Claire. I still am, kind of, because I also believe that, because if you're thinking about this from a monetary perspective, Chris and Jill have more opportunities for cosmetics than Leon and Claire do. I mean, of course, you can give, let's say if Leon and Claire are the survivors, if that's what people believe, considering Leon's popularity and the fact that Matthew Cote, one of the directors of Dead by Daylight, quoted Claire in the announcement trailer for the Resident Evil chapter. If you were to put in Leon and Claire, you could easily have Chris and Jill as legendary cosmetics for Leon and Claire. But to me, I just feel like that, again, Leon and Claire don't have that many outfits, or like main outfits, I'd say, in comparison to Chris and Jill. With Chris and Jill, you have like so many variety of outfits to choose from. With Chris, you could do his RE1 Stars outfit, you could do his Lost in Nightmares BSA outfit, both of his Winter and Water outfits from Revelations 1, you could do his outfits from RE5 and RE6, you can even do his Blue Umbrella outfit from RE7, and even his new Wolf Squad outfit from RE8. Chris got like a lot of options for outfits. And then with Leon, what does Leon have? He really has like his RE2 and RE2 remake outfits, his RE4 outfit, and his RE6 outfit. That's really it. Same with Claire. She's got her RE2 outfit, RE2 remake outfit, and her Revelations 2 outfit. That's really all. Like, I guess you could go with like non-canon outfits like Claire's Elza Walker outfit from Resident Evil 2. But just to me, I feel like Chris and Jill have a lot more opportunities for cosmetics, and you could just throw in Leon and Claire as legendary skins for Chris and Jill. I just feel like that's, in my opinion, what I would want to see the as far as like for survivors for the Resident Evil chapter. And as far as perks go, I don't have like a concrete concrete thesis, I'd say, or concrete idea as to what I believe Jill and Chris's perks would be. I would imagine they'd both play to, the perks would play to Chris and Jill's characters. Like, Chris would maybe be a more offensive character, maybe he'd get more bonuses if he's nearby a killer or smashes a stun one with a locker stun if from head-on or a pallet stun. Meanwhile, Jill may get more perks in regards to like escaping, kind of like Lori did with Decisive Strike. And then of course, I know she definitely have perks involving searching chests, similar to Quentin and Zarina, not Zarina, Quentin and Elodie, who two people I've also played a lot of in Dead by Daylight. As far as survivors go, I am a die-hard Quentin, Tap, Zarina, Claudette, Lori, and Nancy player. And then as killer, I main Trickster, Legion, Oni, and Pig by easily. I love playing as those characters. So to see if Chris and Jill got like perks that played similarly to like, let's say, Tap, Lori, Elodie, and Zarina, I'd be totally cool with that. So that's pretty much all I have to give as far as like who I believe the survivors of the Resident Evil chapter are going to be. Now I'm going to head and go on to who I believe the killer of the Resident Evil chapter should be, assuming we only get one killer. Now moving on to who I believe the killers of the Dead by Daylight Resident Evil chapter will be. Just like with Pixel Brush mentioned in his video, there's really only like around 4 to 5 killers that like I see everyone want to be, and that's either Mr. X from Resident Evil 2, Nemesis from Resident Evil 3, Jack Baker from Resident Evil 7, or Lady Dimitrescu or her daughters from Resident Evil 8. Now, in regards to all of those killers, Pixel Brush made it very clear that he wants either Nemesis, he wants Jack Baker in, and I have to agree with him, because definitely in terms of Dead by Daylight's roster of killers, you have killers, most of them are rather tragic characters. I mean, of course, you have like the actual psycho killers like Ghostface, the Doctor, the Legion, the Trickster, and so on, but besides them, most of Dead by Daylight's killers are actually tragic figures. You have killers, of course, like the Trapper, who was abused by his father to the point of basically being mind controlled by him pretty much, and like doing like horrible things in his name. You have the Spirit, who was, her and her mother were murdered by her father and kind of just let the entity turn her into this horrible monster. You had of course the Death Slinger, who was basically manipulated by his boss and the warden of the prison he got sent to basically was profited off of. So in my opinion, I feel like that's why a lot of people like Pixel Brush and I myself want Jack Baker to be a good character, because even just like because I just feel out of those killers, Jack Baker definitely is the most sympathetic out of them all, as the fact that he really didn't he was kind of just forced into the role of killer after kind of spoilers for Resident Evil 7, but the game's about 4 or 5 years old at this point. So basically he was just a normal dude. Then Evelyn came along, infected him and his family with the mold, and turned him into a cannibal hillbilly killer. So, and that's that kind of logic to me that makes me feel like Jack Baker would be a great fit. But because of how, I guess, new he is, and like, I guess not as popular compared to other big Resident Evil villains like Mr. X and Nemesis, I don't think he'll be the #1 pick. I know everyone thinks Nemesis is going to be picked, and I would be alright if Nemesis was the killer. I wouldn't hate that. I just think Jack Baker would be a better choice for it. But at the same time, because I think, although Nemesis is really, really cool and I'd love to have him, at the same time, yeah, he's just a robot. He's kind of plain, kind of like the Demogorgon. But at the same time, that's like, I guess that's why the Demogorgon works so well, because the Demogorgon is just kind of just a creature in the Stranger Things. So it's real. If you're gonna make a Stranger Things chapter, you kind of have to use a Demogorgon. But with Resident Evil, you have so many killers, and I don't really know if Nemesis is the best fit. I know he's certainly popular, and behavior could definitely make him work. Just don't make him super OP with stuff like his rocket launcher and flamethrower. But it would just feel kind of weird being chased by Nemesis and be able to stun this like almost 10-foot tall monster with just a pallet. And like, it doesn't feel really realistic. And I know everyone wants Lady Dimitrescu as well, or her daughters, and they think that's the case because the 5 in Dead by Daylight's 5-year anniversary thing kind of looks like there's the sickles that Dimitrescu's daughters use, kind of similar to how for the year 4 anniversary they stylized the 4 to look like Pyramid Head's head. But I really don't think that's the case. And honestly, as much as I would love Lady Dimitrescu to be the killer, I think she would also be a good addition. But given what happens to her in Resident Evil 8, I'm not going to say what because of spoilers, because the game's literally only a few weeks old at this point. I really just don't think her or her daughters have gained that notoriety yet to really be impactful as a killer for Dead by Daylight, especially considering this chapter was probably made pretty late into Resident Evil 8's development, so they wouldn't know a lot of stuff about Lady Dimitrescu. That leads me to Mr. X, who he's the one killer I do not want to see in Dead by Daylight at all. I will actually be really pissed if they have Mr. X as the killer, because basically he's Nemesis, but just so bland, and he does, what is he gonna do? He's just gonna punch a lot? Like, I guess, like, behavior could make like a sort of a Michael Myers-like system where he's got like a stalking mechanic, but he's just so bland when you have Nemesis right there who has the tendrils. He can pull people in like the Death Slinger maybe. Maybe he can charge up like so that he gets the rocket launcher, kind of like the Oni's Blood Fury mode, where instead of just having the Oni run around and smack you with his club, Nemesis would get like pull out his rocket launcher after getting enough hits, maybe, and he has maybe one shot, and if you hit that shot, it's a one hit down on someone. I think that would be pretty cool use for Nemesis, but again, he's not my #1 pick, and not even is Jack Baker. Jack Baker's probably my #2 pick, but honestly, if I had to pick for my #1 idea for a killer in the Resident Evil chapter, that would be one that Pixel Brush only barely mentioned in his thing, and that would have to be, in my opinion, William Birkin. Now, for those who don't remember, William Birkin was essentially one of the two main antagonists of Resident Evil 2 alongside Mr. X, and that basically he was, alongside his wife Annette, was the creator of the G-Virus. And I feel like with William Birkin's backstory, it sets him up to be a tragic killer, just a lot like a lot of the other killers in Dead by Daylight's roster already. And just, everything about him fits perfectly. The way his base form at least is set up, the way he has his own weapon, which is a pipe in Resident Evil 2, just like every other killer's own distinct weapon. With Nemesis, I guess you could say maybe it's his fists, but that doesn't really give a lot of room for customization. With William Birkin, you can make that pipe any other kind of weapon if you want in terms of customization, and his story just fits so well with all the other Dead by Daylight killers, because this guy, he was basically an Umbrella scientist with his wife Annette, who were developing the T-Virus and the G-Virus. However, as his development on the G-Virus went along, William wanted to sell the G-Virus to the US military instead of keep it for Umbrella so that his family would be safe. But then, of course, Umbrella heard about this, and they sent Hunk and all the other Umbrella Black Ops soldiers to go ahead and steal the G-Virus back from William. But, of course, when William resisted, they ended up shooting him dead, almost, and getting the G-Virus samples. So, on the brink of death, William had to end up infecting himself with the last G-Virus sample and turned into this big monster that chases Leon and Claire throughout the events of Resident Evil 2. And it's that really that makes me feel like William Birkin would be is probably, in my opinion, the best idea for a killer in the Resident Evil chapter. I know he's not the most popular killer, but all of his stuff is right there for a perfect killer. He has like a grotesque form. He's got a established weapon with his pipe, at least in his base form. And then he does have a few ideas for cosmetics that Behavior could work with. They could maybe incorporate his second and third forms, maybe even his fourth form, as alternate skins for him. I know they could probably do the same with Nemesis and Jack Baker, or maybe even make Dead by Daylight original skins, kind of like what they do with Pyramid Head and Demogorgon. But again, I feel like everything lines up that William Birkin could really be the best killer, in my opinion, for the Resident Evil chapter, especially with how his power could work. I feel like his power definitely involved using the G-Virus to the extent, kind of like how the pig does with the reverse bear trap. So let's say maybe that's how his power works. If he downs a survivor, he can maybe infect them with the G-Virus, and then maybe they're timed and they have to find a G-Virus vaccine that's located around the map, kind of like the pig's jigsaw boxes or the plague's cleansing pools. And if they don't get the vaccine within like, let's say a minute and a half, they actually end up getting killed by the G-Virus embryos bursting out of their chest. I thought that would be a really, really cool idea for a mechanic for William Birkin, and I really would love to see him be the killer for Dead by Daylight's Resident Evil chapter. And finally, that would lead us to basically what the map for the Resident Evil chapter would be if we're getting a map. There's a lot of rumors that say we're not going to get a map for the Resident Evil chapter, similar to all the other maps, the chapters of Year 5 with Descend But Beyond, Binding of Kin, and All Kill. We didn't get any maps, but Behavior hasn't ruled out the possibility of making maps for those chapters in the future. But in my opinion, if we are to get a map for the Resident Evil chapter, I feel like there's really only a few options to go with. In my opinion, you either go with the Spencer Estate from Resident Evil 1, the Raccoon City Police Station from Resident Evil 2, or just Raccoon City in general from Resident Evil 2 and 3. Kind of more so in regards to just the main streets. Maybe include bits and pieces of the police station. I feel like, though, the police station from Resident Evil 2 would probably be the best choice of action, because you could have the main setup be of the upstairs and downstairs sections of the main police station. You have the library, the STARS office, and so on. And then maybe, like, after you complete a generator or two, you unlock the statue, which lets you go down into, like, a little bit of the sewer. Not the whole sewer, but just to add, like, maybe, like, a third level of verticality. I definitely think the RPD station would definitely make for the best, Resident Evil map, in my opinion, for Dead by Daylight's Resident Evil chapter. And so, those are my thoughts on what I believe Dead by Daylight's Chapter 20, the Resident Evil chapter, will be. I believe the survivors are going to be Chris and Jill with legendary skins for Leon and Claire, and maybe they can even throw in other like Resident Evil legacy characters as legendary skins for Chris and Jill. Maybe they can give us characters like you give us Rebecca and Billy from Resident Evil 0. You could give us Sheva from Resident Evil 5. You could give us Carlos from Resident Evil 3. You could even give us Ethan and Mia from Resident Evil 7 and 8. I would love to see Ethan and Mia skins. I'm not sure how they would make an Ethan skin work, but definitely maybe like Mia, Zoe, some other characters. I'd love to see Rebecca and Barry as well. They may even make like Wesker, like pre-Ouroboros Wesker, a skin for Chris. I think that would be actually pretty cool, even though it wouldn't really make a lot of sense because he would fit more in line as a killer than a survivor. But who knows? I believe Chris and Jill are going to be the survivors, with definitely Leon and Claire at least as legendary skins for them. William Birkin will be the killer, and then the map for the chapter would be the RPG station. And so, just so you guys know, I will be recording a reaction to the Resident Evil chapter reveal at Dead by Daylight's 5th anniversary stream tomorrow on the 25th. I'm super excited for that, and I hope this is the start of a bunch of new Dead by Daylight videos for me that I hope to cover more of on this channel. So are you guys excited for the Resident Evil chapter of Dead by Daylight as much as I am? If you are, be sure to like, comment, and of course subscribe, and I will see you guys later.